I would have signed without knowing Mandarin, but the nanny's daughter showed up just in time. Jennifer Wilson held the pen with trembling hands as she stared at the contract that would change her life forever. After 6 months of intense negotiations, she finally had in her hands the deal with Chinese investors that would save her clothing factory from complete bankruptcy. That's when a child's voice echoed through the meeting room of her company in New York City. "Aunt Jennifer, don't sign that!" shouted Emily, the 10-year-old daughter of Grace, her nanny. The girl had rushed into the room carrying a lunchbox her mother had prepared especially for her boss, who had been in meetings for hours without eating. But now Emily was staring in horror at the papers scattered across the glass table. Jennifer felt her heart race. What did she mean? Don't sign. That contract represented the only chance to save the jobs of 400 employees and keep alive the company her father had built from scratch 30 years ago. "Emily, what are you doing here?" Jennifer asked, trying to keep her voice calm as Mr. Wong, the leader of the Chinese delegation, watched her with an unreadable expression. "I can read this, Auntie," the girl said, pointing to a specific clause in the middle of the document. "My grandma Mei Lin taught me Mandarin since I was little, and this here says something really bad." The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer felt as if the floor had vanished beneath her feet. Michael Peterson, the translator she had hastily hired through a referral, visibly paled. "Sweetie, you must be confused," Michael said with a nervous laugh. "This is a very technical document with complex legal terms." But Emily shook her head firmly, her curly hair bouncing around her small face. "I'm not confused at all. It says here that in 6 months the whole company will be theirs and Auntie will be left with nothing. It's not an investment, it's a purchase disguised as one." Grace appeared at the door, breathless and visibly mortified. "Emily, didn't I tell you to stay in the car?" "I'm so sorry, Miss Jennifer. She ran off when she saw the papers through the window. Come here right now." But Jennifer raised her hand, signaling for Grace to wait. Her motherly instinct, even though she was only a mother to Jason, her 15-year-old son who was studying in Great Britain, told her something important was happening. "Emily, are you sure about what you're reading?" Jennifer asked, crouching down to the girl's level. "Yes, Auntie, look here." Emily pointed to a specific line in the contract, pronouncing a few words in Mandarin perfectly. "This means full ownership transfer after a 6-month transition period. And down here," she continued, pointing to another section, "it says all the equipment, brands, and employees will completely belong to them." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, back to the story. Mr. Wong finally spoke, his deep voice filling the room. "The girl is correct," he said in English with a heavy but perfectly understandable accent. "She reads Mandarin better than your official translator." Jennifer felt the world spin around her. Her legs weakened, and she had to steady herself on the executive leather chair that had once been her father's. "What do you mean, she's correct?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Michael began sweating, nervously adjusting his dress shirt cuffs. "There must have been some misunderstanding in the initial translation," he stammered. "These contracts are very complex. Sometimes the terms can be interpreted in different ways." "There was no misunderstanding," Emily interrupted, with the boldness only children possess. "You changed the words on purpose. Here in the original Mandarin it says one thing, but the Portuguese translation says something completely different." Grace, who had remained silent until then, stepped forward. Jennifer noticed for the first time how tense her nanny looked, as if fighting something internally. "Emily, come here now," said Grace, but her voice lacked its usual firmness. "No, Mom," Emily replied. "Aunt Jennifer is good to us. She always helps when you get sick, remember? When you were hospitalized last year, she paid for everything and didn't even deduct it from your salary. I won't let this liar steal from her." Jennifer felt her eyes well up. She had indeed covered all of Grace's medical expenses when she had pneumonia, but never imagined Emily knew. The girl was even more observant than she'd realized. Mr. Wong exchanged a few quick words in Mandarin with his 2 colleagues. Emily listened intently, her expression growing even more serious. "Auntie, they're saying they already knew the translator was lying," she said, looking straight at Jennifer. "They wanted to see if you'd sign without fully understanding." The shock of this revelation hit Jennifer like a punch to the gut. Not only was she being deceived by the translator, but the investors themselves were testing her naivety. "Is this true?" she asked, staring directly at Mr. Wong. The man crossed his arms and nodded slowly. "It's common practice in our business," he said without a hint of embarrassment. "We only want to work with partners who show intelligence and caution. Those who sign contracts without fully understanding don't deserve our trust or our money." A mix of anger and humiliation burned in Jennifer's chest. For months, she had poured herself into these negotiations, dreamed of this investment, promised her employees everything would work out. And now she discovered it had all been a cruel game. "So you never actually intended to make a fair investment?" she asked, her voice rising. "On the contrary," Mr. Wong replied, his expression unreadable. "Our intention was always to do business, but only with those who prove themselves trustworthy." Emily stepped forward with impressive courage for a 10-year-old. "Sir, with all due respect, but the ones who aren't trustworthy here are you," she said, staring straight at Mr. Wong. "My grandma always taught me that honest people don't test others by tricking them. A real test is when you tell the truth and see if the other person does too." Grace looked visibly alarmed by her daughter's boldness. "Emily, that's no way to speak to adults," she scolded, but Jennifer could hear pride mixed with worry in Grace's voice. Mr. Wong studied Emily for a long moment, his expression shifting subtly. Jennifer could see something calculating behind those sharp, dark eyes. "Your daughter makes an interesting point," he said, addressing Grace for the first time. "Where did she learn Mandarin so well?" Grace hesitated, as if deciding how much to reveal. "My parents were Chinese immigrants," she finally said. "They came to the United States in the 80s. Emily grew up hearing Mandarin from her grandparents." "And you?" Mr. Wong asked. "Do you speak as well?" Grace lowered her eyes, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "I do," she replied quietly. Mr. Wong said something in Mandarin, a direct question. Grace answered fluently, her posture shifting subtly but noticeably. Jennifer realized that when Grace spoke Mandarin, she seemed different, more confident, more articulate. "Very interesting," murmured Mr. Wong. "Do you have formal education?" Grace looked nervously at Jennifer before answering. "I have a degree in international business from NYU," she said, "and a postgraduate degree in international relations." Jennifer felt as if she'd been punched again. In 3 years of employing Grace as a nanny and housekeeper, she'd never known this information. How was that possible? "Grace, why did you never tell me this?" she asked, genuinely confused. Grace took a deep breath, as if carrying a weight on her shoulders for a long time. "Because when you hired me, I'd been unemployed for 2 years," she said, her voice heavy with old sadness. "No one wanted to hire a 40-year-old single mother with no references. You offered me work when I needed it most. I was afraid if you knew my qualifications, you'd think I wouldn't want the job or would ask for more money." The raw honesty in Grace's voice made Jennifer's heart tighten. How many times had she walked past Grace in the kitchen, focused only on her own problems, without ever really asking about that woman's life, dreams, or past? Emily looked at her mother with an expression mixing love and determination. "Mom, tell Aunt Jennifer what happened at your old job," she said softly. Grace shook her head firmly. "Emily, that's not relevant now." "Yes, it is," the girl insisted. "Tell her how you got fired because you refused to lie." The silence in the room grew heavier. Jennifer looked between mother and daughter, realizing there were layers of history here she'd never imagined. "Grace, what is Emily talking about?" she asked gently. Grace glanced at Michael, who remained silent in the corner, then at Mr. Wong and his colleagues, and finally at Jennifer. "I worked at an import-export company," she said slowly. "I was an international accounts manager. One day I discovered my boss was falsifying import documents to pay less taxes. When I refused to sign the fake papers and threatened to report him, he fired me and spread rumors to other companies that I was problematic and dishonest." Jennifer felt a lump in her throat. The irony of the situation was painful. Grace had lost her job for refusing to be dishonest, and now she was witnessing the exact same kind of dishonesty happening to her employer. "Is that why you never got another job in the field?" Jennifer asked. "Exactly," Grace confirmed. "In the international business market, everyone knows each other. Once your reputation is tarnished, even unfairly, it's very hard to come back." Mr. Wong had been following the entire conversation with growing interest. He said something in Mandarin to Grace, who responded hesitantly at first, but then with increasing fluency and confidence. The exchange lasted several minutes, and Jennifer could see there was a genuine exchange of ideas happening. "What are you two talking about?" Jennifer asked. Emily translated promptly. He asked Mom about her experience with the Asian market, and she's telling him about the projects she worked on before. He's impressed that she understands not just the language, but also the business customs. Michael finally found the courage to speak again. "Look, everyone, I can explain all this," he said, stepping toward the table. "There were some adjustments in the translation, but it was to try to make things easier to understand. Sometimes legal terms in Mandarin are too complex to translate literally." Emily stared at him with an expression that made her seem much older than her 10 years. "Sir, lying isn't adjusting. Lying is lying," she said, with devastating simplicity. Michael grew visibly agitated. "You don't understand, kid. I need this job. My wife is undergoing cancer treatment and the medication is very expensive. When they offered me extra money to change a few things, I thought it would be just this once." The confession dropped like a bomb in the room. Jennifer looked at Michael with a mix of anger and pity. She understood the desperation of wanting to protect a loved one, but that didn't justify risking the lives of hundreds of families who depended on her company. "How much did they pay you to lie?" she asked. Michael lowered his head. $50,000, he whispered. Jennifer closed her eyes, trying to process it all. $50,000. A significant amount for anyone, especially for someone facing high medical expenses, but also a ridiculously small sum compared to the millions she was about to lose. Mr. Wong observed the entire scene with an interested expression, as if watching a particularly fascinating play. "Now that all the secrets are out," he finally said, "we can have an honest conversation about business." Jennifer stared at him in disbelief. "Honest conversation? After all this, you still think I'd want to do business with you?" "Actually," Emily said, surprising everyone, "I think now is when a real conversation can begin." Everyone turned to the girl, intrigued by her insight. "Mr. Wong," Emily continued, addressing the investor directly, "wanted to see if Aunt Jennifer was smart and honest. Aunt Jennifer," she turned to her employer, "wanted serious and trustworthy investors. Now everyone knows everyone can be honest. Why not start over, but for real this time? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out." Now continuing, the girl's suggestion created a moment of thoughtful silence. Jennifer looked around the room, at Grace, who seemed torn between hope and caution, at Emily, watching her with bright, expectant eyes, at Mr. Wong, whose expression had softened considerably, and at Michael, who remained with his head down, clearly consumed by shame and remorse. "Emily is right," Grace said softly, surprising everyone by joining the conversation. "If everyone wants to be honest now, maybe we can find a solution that benefits everyone." Mr. Wong exchanged a glance with his colleagues, then nodded slowly. "I'm willing to listen," he said, "but this time, I want Ms. Grace to take part in the translation. Her daughter has shown that honesty is a family value." Jennifer felt a wave of emotion. For 3 years, Grace had been just the nanny in her mind, a reliable but peripheral presence. Now suddenly, she saw Grace for who she truly was, an intelligent, educated, ethical woman who had sacrificed her career for her principles. "Grace," Jennifer said, turning to her, "I'd really like you to be part of these negotiations, not just as a translator, but as a consultant. Clearly you understand this market far better than I do." Grace hesitated, glancing uncertainly between Jennifer and Emily. "I don't know if it would be appropriate," she said. "I'm your housekeeper, not an executive." "You're much more than that," Jennifer said firmly, "and I was a fool not to see it sooner." Emily smiled proudly at her mother. Mom, you always tell me that when God closes a door, he opens a window. I think this is your window. Grace laughed softly, her eyes glistening. My wise girl, she murmured, stroking Emily's hair. Mr. Wong clapped his hands once, drawing everyone's attention. Very well, he said. Let's start over. But now with clear rules, total transparency, honest translation and mutual benefits. And Mr. Peterson, he looked at the translator, you may leave. Your services are no longer needed. Michael raised his head, hope shining in his eyes. I can return the money, he said quickly. I haven't spent any of it yet. Please give me a second chance. Jennifer looked at him for a long moment. Part of her wanted to reject him outright, but another part understood the desperation that had led him to that situation. You can return the money to them, she said, pointing to Mr. Wong. As for the second chance, that will depend on you proving you've learned something today. I can help your wife, Grace offered unexpectedly. I know some healthcare assistance programs that could help with treatment costs, legitimate ethical programs. Michael looked at Grace with genuine gratitude. You'd do that after what I did? Everyone deserves a second chance, Grace said, but only one. Emily clapped softly, clearly approving of her mother's decision. Mr. Wong watched the entire exchange with growing interest. Very interesting, he murmured. You are an unusual family. We're not blood relatives, Jennifer said, but I think sometimes the family we choose is just as important as the one we're born into. Grace smiled at her, a genuine warm smile Jennifer realized she'd never seen before. Now, Mr. Wong said, returning to the matter at hand, let's discuss a real agreement. But first I need to know, Ms. Wilson, what exactly are your needs? Jennifer took a deep breath. It was time to be completely honest. My company has been struggling for 2 years, she said. The pandemic hit our sector hard. We lost major contracts, had to cut back production. I have 400 employees depending on me, whole families who've worked here for decades. I need capital to modernize our equipment, expand our product line, and regain our competitiveness in the market. How much do you need? Mr. Wong asked. Ideally, $2 million, Jennifer replied. But I'm willing to negotiate equity in exchange for investment. Mr. Wong nodded thoughtfully. And you, Ms. Grace, he said, turning to her, what's your take on this company's potential? Grace glanced nervously at Jennifer, silently asking for permission. Jennifer gave her an encouraging nod. Well, Grace began, her voice growing more confident as she spoke, I've worked here for 3 years. I've seen how Ms. Wilson treats her employees, how she cares for every family. During the pandemic, she could have laid off half the staff to cut costs, but she chose to reduce her own salary and find creative ways to keep everyone employed. Jennifer was surprised. She hadn't realized Grace had noticed those details. Besides, Grace continued, the product quality is excellent. The issue isn't the company itself, it's the lack of access to international markets. With the right connections and strategy, this company could easily triple its revenue. Mr. Wong exchanged a few words in Mandarin with his colleagues, then turned back to Grace. Would you be interested in working as our local liaison? He asked. We need someone who understands both our culture and the American market. Grace looked at Jennifer, clearly torn. I don't know, she said. It would depend on many things. Emily gently nudged her mother's arm. Mom, you've always wanted to get back into the field you studied, she whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Jennifer felt a pang in her heart. Grace had sacrificed her professional ambitions to care for her home and Emily. Her loyalty and dedication deserved to be rewarded, not exploited. Grace, Jennifer said, if you want to take this opportunity, you have my full support. And more than that, I'd like to offer you a position at my company as well, Director of International Relations. Grace's eyes widened. Jennifer, you don't have to do this. I know it's just gratitude for what happened today. It's not gratitude, Jennifer said firmly. It's recognition. I should have seen your talents long ago. That was my blindness, not your lack of ability. Mr. Wong smiled for the first time since arriving. Excellent, he said. Then we have a basis for negotiation. $2 million in investment in exchange for a 30% equity stake. Ms. Grace will serve as our liaison but will also continue working for you, and all contracts and communications will be translated with complete transparency. Jennifer felt a mix of relief and apprehension. It was a much better offer than the previous farce, but it still meant sharing control of her company. "Can I think about the terms?" she asked. "Of course," said Mr. Wong, "but I have one additional condition." Jennifer's heart sank. There was always a catch. "What would that be?" she asked cautiously. Mr. Wong looked at Emily with a genuine smile. "I'd like young Emily to visit our facilities in China during her school break. We have an exchange program for talented bilingual youth. Naturally, with the whole family, all expenses paid." Emily's eyes lit up with excitement. "Really? I could see China?" Grace laughed, stroking her daughter's hair. "It would be an incredible opportunity for her," she said. "My parents always dreamed of her visiting their homeland." "And for you as well," Mr. Wong added. "It would be a chance to better understand our business culture and build stronger relationships." Jennifer looked around the room, seeing all the hopeful faces turned toward her. For the first time in months, she felt something like optimism growing in her chest. "We have an agreement in principle," she finally said, "but I want everything properly documented, with lawyers from both sides reviewing every clause." "Naturally," Mr. Wong agreed, "and I suggest Ms. Grace participate in all legal reviews. Her perspective will be valuable." Michael, who had remained silent throughout the negotiation, finally spoke. "I can help with the initial document translations," he offered. "No charge is the least I can do to make up for my mistake." Jennifer considered the offer for a moment. "You can help," she said at last, "but under Grace's supervision at all times, and as I said before, this is your one and only second chance." Michael nodded gratefully. "Understood. Thank you." Mr. Wong stood, signaling the meeting was coming to a close. "Very well," he said. "I believe we made good progress today. Let's prepare the preliminary documents and schedule another meeting for next week." As everyone gathered to leave, Emily tugged at Jennifer's sleeve. "Aunt Jennifer," she said, "can I say something?" "Of course, sweetheart." Emily looked at her seriously. "I always knew you were a good person, but today you were also really brave. My mom always says courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing, even when you are." Jennifer crouched down to Emily's level, feeling her eyes well up. "Thank you, Emily. You and your mother saved me today, more than you know." "We're a team," Emily said with a smile. "Officially now." As everyone filed out of the meeting room, Jennifer lingered for a moment alone, gazing out the window at the city of New York stretching into the distance. For the first time in a long while, the future seemed full of possibilities rather than just worries. Grace appeared in the doorway. "Jennifer, are you sure this is the right thing?" she asked. "I don't want you to feel obligated to offer me a position just because I helped today." Jennifer turned to her. "Grace, can I ask you something? Why did you keep working for me for 3 years? Being so qualified, you could have kept looking for other opportunities in your field." Grace sighed. "Because you treated me with respect," she said simply. "When I first came here, I was broken in every way. No money, no confidence, no hope. You didn't just give me a job, you gave me dignity. You never treated me as less important because I was a nanny or a housekeeper. Emily noticed that, and that's why she adores you." Jennifer felt a lump in her throat. "I should have asked more about you, about your life, your dreams." "You were dealing with your own problems," Grace said gently. "I knew the company was going through tough times. I saw how you stayed up late, working, worrying. I understood. Even so, that's no excuse for not seeing who you really are." Grace smiled. "Sometimes we need the right moment for things to reveal themselves. Maybe today was that moment." Emily came running down the hallway. "Mom, Mr. Wong wants to talk to you before he leaves." Grace and Jennifer walked together to the lobby, where Mr. Wong was waiting. "Ms. Grace," he said, "I spoke with my colleagues, and we'd like to make an additional proposal." Grace looked at him curiously. "Beyond working as a liaison for this project, we'd like to hire you as a consultant for other American companies we do business with. It's a market we're expanding, and we need someone who understands both our mindset and the American one." Grace looked visibly surprised. "Would that be a full-time position?" "It would be flexible," Mr. Wong explained. "You could work part-time for us and part-time for Ms. Wilson, or we could structure a consulting agreement with full flexibility." Emily bounced excitedly. "Mum, you'd have two important jobs," Grace laughed, but Jennifer could see the emotion shining in her eyes. "I need to think," Grace said. "It's a lot of change all at once." "Of course," Mr. Wong said, "but know that we were very impressed by your integrity and competence today. People like you are rare in the business world." After Mr. Wong and his colleagues left, Jennifer, Grace, and Emily were alone in the company lobby. "So now what?" Grace asked. "What?" "Now," Jennifer said, "I think we need to have a long, honest talk about the future, all of ours." Emily raised her hand like she was in school. "Can I make a suggestion?" "Of course," Jennifer said, laughing. "How about we have dinner together and talk? I'm starving, and I think everyone here needs to eat something." Grace and Jennifer exchanged a glance and started laughing. "Your daughter is wise," Jennifer said. "Let's have dinner and talk about all this calmly." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. They went to a small, cozy Italian restaurant in the neighborhood, a place Jennifer had frequented alone for years, but had never visited with people who truly cared about her. Over dinner, Grace shared more of her story, how she had come to the United States as a child, how her parents had worked hard to build a new life, how she had struggled to get a higher education despite financial difficulties. "When I graduated," Grace said, absently stirring her plate of gnocchi, "I thought the world was open to me. I was young, idealistic, full of dreams." "What happened?" Jennifer asked gently. "Life," Grace replied with a sad smile. "I got involved with the wrong man, got pregnant with Emily, was left alone. I had to start over, but now with a daughter to raise by myself." Emily held her mother's hand. "But you never gave up, Mom, even when it was hard." "There were times when I thought about giving up," admitted Grace, "especially after I was fired and slandered. For a while I thought I'd never be able to work in my field again." "Why didn't you try to sue your former boss?" asked Jennifer. Grace shrugged. "I didn't have money for a lawyer, and he had far more power and influence than I did. Sometimes you have to pick your battles. I chose to focus on surviving and taking care of Emily." Jennifer looked at Grace with growing admiration. The strength and determination of this woman were inspiring. "And you, Jennifer?" Grace asked. "What was it like taking over the company after your father passed?" Jennifer took a deep breath. "Terrifying," she admitted. "Dad was always very protective of me. He included me in the business but never really let me take on big responsibilities. When he was gone, suddenly I had to make decisions that affected hundreds of families." "Do you miss him?" Emily asked, with the innocent curiosity of a child. "Every day," Jennifer answered, her eyes glistening. "But not just the person. I miss the advisor, the partner, the mentor. Sometimes I wonder what he would do in difficult situations." "What do you think he'd say about what happened today?" Grace asked. Jennifer considered the question for a moment. "I think he'd be proud," she finally said. "He always taught me that integrity was worth more than any amount of money. And I think he would have loved both of you." Emily beamed. "I wish I could have met your dad," she said. "I bet he was as nice as you." "He would have adored you," Jennifer said, smiling through her tears. "He always said children see things adults miss. You proved that today." "Jennifer," Grace hesitated, "can I ask you about Jason? You hardly ever talk about him." Jennifer's expression darkened slightly. "Jason is studying in Great Britain," she said. "Business administration at an excellent university. He's a brilliant boy, but—" "But?" Grace encouraged. "But sometimes I feel like I'm losing him," Jennifer admitted. "He's so focused on his life there, his British friends, the international opportunities. When we talk over video calls, it feels like we're growing further apart." "Does he know about the company's troubles?" Grace asked. "No," Jennifer said quickly. "I didn't want to worry him. He's at an important stage in his life." Emily frowned. But he's your son, right? Maybe he'd want to help. What kind of help could a 15-year-old give? Jennifer asked. I'm 10, and I helped today, Emily replied simply. Emily's words struck Jennifer like lightning. She had completely underestimated what a child could contribute, and maybe she was doing the same with Jason. You're right, Jennifer said slowly. Maybe I should trust him more. My grandma always said, Emily chimed in, that family is for sharing not just joys but worries too. Otherwise it's not real family. Grace smiled proudly at her daughter. My mother was very wise, she said. Emily takes after her a lot. She takes after you too, Jennifer said. The courage, the integrity, the intelligence, that doesn't come from nowhere. They kept talking through dinner, sharing stories, fears, and hopes. It was the first time in years Jennifer had felt truly connected to others, not just professionally, but on a human level. As they finished dessert, Grace asked a question Jennifer didn't expect. Jennifer, are you happy? The question caught her off guard. Happy, she repeated. I don't know. It's been so long since I've thought about happiness. I think about responsibilities, survival, keeping everything running. That's not living, Grace said gently. That's just existing. Emily nodded vigorously. My mom always tells me that even when things are tough, we have to find reasons to smile every day. And do you find them? Jennifer asked, genuinely curious. Yes, Emily said without hesitation. Just today I found several reasons. I helped you, met new people. My mom is getting her dream job. And on top of that, I'm going to visit China. Her joy was contagious. Jennifer couldn't help but smile. When you put it like that, there really were a lot of reasons to smile, she said. Exactly, Emily replied, and tomorrow there will be new ones. On the way back home, walking along the sidewalk lit by city lights, Jennifer reflected on everything that had happened. In just a few hours, her life had completely changed, not just professionally, but personally. Grace, she said, I want to apologize to you. Apologize for what? Grace asked, surprised. For not seeing you, for treating you as if you were just a role in my life, instead of a person with your own dreams, talents, and stories. Grace stopped walking and looked at her. Jennifer, you never treated me badly. Never. You were always respectful, fair, generous. But I wasn't curious, Jennifer said. I wasn't present. I didn't ask about you as a person. You were dealing with your own struggles, Grace said again. I understood that. Still, it was no excuse, Jennifer insisted, especially now that I know how much you sacrificed to work for me. Emily, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. Aunt Jennifer, my mom always spoke well of you. She said you were a good person going through a hard time, and that good people always find a way to do the right thing. Emily's right, Grace said. I never felt unappreciated working for you. Different, maybe. Underutilized sometimes, but never disrespected. Jennifer sighed. Even so, I want you to know, I'll do everything in my power to make up for these 3 years. You deserve so much more than I gave you. You gave me stability when I needed it most, Grace said, and a place where Emily could grow up, surrounded by love. That was worth more than any higher salary. When they reached the building where Grace and Emily lived, a simple but well-kept apartment, Jennifer hesitated before saying goodbye. Grace, can I ask you something? Of course. How did you keep hope all these years? After everything you went through, how didn't you become bitter or give up? Grace looked at Emily, who was distracted, gazing at the stars in the night sky. Because of her, Grace said simply. Every time I thought about giving up, I looked at Emily and remembered she needed to see that it's worth fighting, worth staying true, worth believing better days would come. And they did, Jennifer observed. They did, Grace agreed, smiling, in a way I never imagined. Emily turned to them. Mom, can I tell Aunt Jennifer something? Of course, sweetheart. Emily looked seriously at Jennifer. My mom cried the day you hired her. She thought I didn't see, but I did. It wasn't sad crying. It was relief. She said she'd finally found an angel. Jennifer felt her eyes well up again. I'm no angel, Emily. To us you were, Emily said simply. And today, you found out we can be angels for you too. The wisdom of that 10-year-old girl kept surprising Jennifer. It was as if Emily saw the world with a clarity adults had lost somewhere along the way. "Thank you," Jennifer said, hugging Emily and then Grace, "for everything. For saving me today. For showing me things about myself I didn't know. For reminding me what really matters." "Thank you," said Grace, "for giving us the chance to repay everything you've done for us." As she drove home, Jennifer thought about Jason. It had been months since they'd had a proper conversation, just quick messages about practical matters. Maybe it was time for an honest talk, mother to son, about life, the company, and the future. When she arrived at her spacious but always too empty apartment, Jennifer picked up the phone and dialed Jason's number. It was almost 10 at night in the United States, which meant late morning on the east coast of Great Britain. "Mom," Jason answered, surprised. "Is everything okay? You never call this late." "Everything's fine, son," Jennifer said, settling into her father's favorite armchair. "Actually, it's better than fine. But I wanted to talk to you about some important things." "Of course, Mom. What happened?" Jennifer took a deep breath and began recounting the whole story of the day. Jason listened quietly, asking occasional questions, showing an interest and maturity that surprised her. "Mom," he said when she finished, "why didn't you ever tell me about the company's problems?" "Because I didn't want to worry you," Jennifer admitted. "You're studying, building your future. I thought it was my responsibility to handle everything alone." "But the company is our family's," Jason said. "I have a right to know what's going on, don't I?" Jennifer realized he was right. She had repeated her father's mistake, trying to protect him instead of preparing him. "You're right," she said. "I'm sorry I didn't trust you." "Mom, I can help," Jason said. "I'm studying business. I have access to a lot of information about international markets here, and I know Chinese students who could help me better understand this partnership you're planning." Jennifer smiled, remembering Emily's comment about underestimating kids. "I'd love your help, Jason, but are you sure you want to get involved in this? I know you have plans after college." "My plans always included coming back to the United States eventually," Jason said. "Grandpa's company is my legacy too. I want to help keep it alive and strong." They talked for another hour, with Jason asking smart questions and offering perspectives Jennifer hadn't considered. When they finally hung up, she felt more connected to her son than she had in years. Before bed, Jennifer lingered on her apartment balcony, gazing at New York City stretching into the distance. In one day, her life had completely changed. Not just the company's financial situation, but her understanding of relationships, trust, and the importance of truly seeing the people around her. She thought of Grace, who had sacrificed so much for integrity, and Emily, who had shown that wisdom has no age. She thought of Jason, ready to take on responsibilities she hadn't even realized he wanted. And she thought of her father, who would surely be proud to see how she had chosen to do the right thing, even when the wrong thing would have been easier. The next morning, Jennifer arrived at the office earlier than usual. She wanted to organize her thoughts before the day's meetings. Grace arrived soon after, bringing Emily, who had no school due to a holiday. "Good morning, Aunt Jennifer," Emily greeted cheerfully. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in months," Jennifer answered honestly. "And you?" "My mum stayed up late making plans," Emily said. "She was too excited to sleep." Grace smiled, slightly embarrassed. "It's true," she admitted. "It's been so long since I've felt this sense of possibility of a future." "And I called Jason last night," Jennifer said. "I told him everything that happened here." "How did he react?" asked Grace. "Better than I expected," said Jennifer. "He wants to help. In fact, he's excited to be part of all this." Emily clapped her hands. "That's great. Can I meet him when he comes back?" "Of course you can," Jennifer said, laughing. "I think you'll get along really well." Jennifer's phone rang. It was Mr. Wong. "Good morning, Ms. Wilson," he said. "I hope I'm not calling too early." "Not at all, Mr. Wong. How can I help you?" "I spoke with my partners last night. They were very impressed with what happened and would like to speed up the process. Would it be possible to schedule a meeting today to start formalizing the documents?" Jennifer looked at Grace, who nodded encouragingly. That would be great, Jennifer said. What time would work for you? How about 2 in the afternoon? And if it's not too much trouble, we'd like Ms. Grace and young Emily to join as well. That's fine with me, Jennifer replied. I'll confirm with them. After hanging up, Jennifer turned to Grace and Emily. Would you like to join the meeting this afternoon? I'd love to, Grace said. But what about Emily? Maybe it's better if she stays home. No, Mom, Emily protested. I want to be there. I promise I'll be quiet and only speak if someone needs translation. Jennifer laughed. I think Emily should come. After all, she's the one who started all this. During the morning, Jennifer and Grace worked together to prepare documents and information about the company. It was the first time Jennifer had seen Grace in a professional setting, and she was impressed by her organization, attention to detail, and technical knowledge. Grace, Jennifer said during a break, I have a question that might be a bit personal. Go ahead. How much did you earn at your previous job? Grace hesitated. Why do you ask? Because I want to make sure I'm offering a fair salary for your new position. Grace was quiet for a moment. I made $6,000 a month, she finally said, plus benefits. Jennifer did a quick calculation. She had been paying Grace $2,500 as a nanny and housekeeper. Grace, I'm raising your salary to $8,000 a month, plus benefits and profit sharing, she said. And that's just for starters. If the partnership works out as we hope, it'll be much more. Grace's eyes widened. Jennifer, that's so generous. It's not generosity, Jennifer interrupted. It's fairness. And besides, you'll be taking on a lot more responsibility. Emily, who had been quietly drawing in the corner, looked up. Mum, does that mean you can buy me that bike I want? Grace laughed, her eyes glistening. It means a lot of things, sweetheart, she said, hugging her daughter. At the scheduled time, Mr. Wong arrived with 2 lawyers and an accountant. Michael was also there, visibly nervous but determined to do a good job. Good afternoon, everyone, Mr. Wong greeted. I'm very excited to formalize our partnership. So are we, Jennifer said. Grace has prepared some documents I think you'll find useful. Grace presented a detailed analysis of the company, including growth potential, market opportunities, and expansion strategies. Mr. Wong and his team were visibly impressed. Excellent work, Mr. Wong said. I can see why you were an international accounts manager. Thank you, Grace replied, blushing but confident. Emily sat quietly beside her mother, watching everything carefully. Occasionally, when discussions arose about translating specific terms, she offered clarifications that were always accurate and helpful. During the meeting, a complicated issue about profit distribution came up. The lawyers began debating complex legal terms, and the tension in the room grew. That's when Emily timidly raised her hand. Can I ask a question? She said. Everyone looked at her curiously. Why don't you do what kids do when they share a toy? She asked. Everyone gets to use it a little, but everyone still owns it together. The lawyers looked confused, but Mr. Wong smiled. Explain further, Emily, he requested. It's like when my friends and I bought a video game together, said Emily. Everyone chips in, everyone gets to play, but when it's time to decide something, everyone has to agree. That way, no one can do something that hurts the others. Mr. Wong's accountant looked thoughtful. Actually, he said, that's an excellent analogy for a cooperative governance structure. Each party keeps its autonomy, but major decisions require consensus. Mr. Wong nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. That's what we've been looking for, a true partnership, not a disguised takeover. Jennifer looked at Emily with admiration. Once again, the girl had found a simple solution to a complex problem. The negotiations continued for 2 more hours, but now with a much more collaborative spirit. When they wrapped up, all terms had been agreed upon. A $2 million investment, a 30% equity stake for the Chinese investors, but with clauses protecting Jennifer's operational autonomy and ensuring major decisions would be made jointly. Excellent, said Mr. Wong, standing to shake everyone's hands. Our lawyers will draft the final documents and we hope to sign everything next week. And the job offer for Grace still stands? Asked Jennifer. Absolutely, confirmed Mr. Wong. In fact, after today's presentation, we'd like to discuss an even better proposal. Grace looked intrigued. What kind of proposal? "We want you to be our regional director for North America," said Mr. Wong. "You'd be responsible for identifying and developing partnerships across the continent. The salary would be substantially higher and include benefits like travel, training in China, and a significant budget for project development." Grace was speechless for a moment. This is an incredible opportunity," she finally said, "but I need to think about how to balance it with my work here at Jennifer's company." "Actually," said Jennifer, "I think the two roles would complement each other perfectly. You'd work part-time for me, developing our international business, and part-time for them, building partnerships for other US companies." Mr. Wong nodded. "Exactly. And the experience you gain in one role will benefit the other. It's a win-win situation." Emily looked at her mother with obvious pride. "Mom, you're going to be a director," she said, jumping with joy. Grace laughed, hugging her daughter. "It looks that way, sweetheart. It seems our dreams really are coming true." After Mr. Wong and his team left, Jennifer, Grace, and Emily were alone in the conference room. "I still can't believe all this is happening," said Grace, shaking her head in disbelief. "Believe it," said Jennifer. "You deserve this, and so much more." Emily climbed onto the big chair at the meeting table and spun around, laughing. "Can I come work with you sometimes?" she asked. "I promise I'll help and not get in the way." "Of course you can," said Jennifer. "You're our official creative solutions consultant." "That's so cool," said Emily. "Can I have a business card too?" Grace and Jennifer laughed. "We'll see," said Grace. "First, you need to finish 4th grade." "Okay," agreed Emily, "but I'll study hard to be as smart as you." "You're already smart, sweetheart," said Grace. "You just need to stay curious and brave like you've always been." That evening, Jennifer invited Grace and Emily to dinner at her house. It was the first time she had received visitors in months, and she made sure to personally prepare a special dinner. "Your home is beautiful, Aunt Jennifer," said Emily, exploring the apartment. "But it seems a bit empty. Where are the photos?" Jennifer stopped stirring the pot. "What photos?" "Family photos, of friends, happy moments," explained Emily. "At our house, the living room wall is full of pictures. My mom says it's important to remember the good times." Jennifer looked around her apartment. Emily was right. The walls were decorated with expensive abstract paintings, but there wasn't a single personal photo in sight. "You're right," said Jennifer. "I guess I stopped taking pictures a long time ago." "Why?" asked Emily with the innocent curiosity of children. Jennifer thought for a moment. "I think I stopped feeling happy enough to want to remember the moments," she admitted honestly. Emily frowned. "But if you don't take pictures of happy moments, how will you remember they existed when you're sad again?" Emily's question struck Jennifer deeply. She had focused so much on problems and responsibilities that she had completely forgotten to celebrate and record the good times. "You're right, Emily," said Jennifer. "How about we take a photo today, to celebrate our time together?" "Yes," shouted Emily, excited. "And when Jason gets back, we'll take another one." During dinner, they took several photos. Emily insisted on posing in different ways. Grace laughed at her daughter's antics, and Jennifer was surprised to find herself genuinely smiling for the first time in a long while. "Can I ask you something, Aunt Jennifer?" said Emily during dessert. "Of course. Are you alone by choice or because you haven't found the right person?" Grace was mortified. "Emily, you can't ask that." "It's okay," said Jennifer, laughing. "It's a fair question. I think it's a bit of both, Emily. After Jason's father and I separated, I became so focused on work and running the company that I kind of forgot to take care of my personal life." "But don't you get lonely?" Emily pressed. "Sometimes," Jennifer admitted, "but there's so much work, so much responsibility, that I don't always have time to feel lonely." "But that's not living," said Emily, echoing the words Grace had said the day before. "That's just doing things." Jennifer looked at Grace, who nodded in agreement with her daughter. "Emily's right," said Grace. "Work is important, but it can't be the only thing in life." "And how do I change that?" asked Jennifer, genuinely curious about their perspective. "First," said Emily, counting on her fingers, "you need to do things you enjoy just because you enjoy them. not because you have to. Second, Grace continued, joining in, you need to let people get close to you. Not just as employees or business partners, but as friends. Third, said Emily, you need to stop thinking you have to handle everything alone. Asking for help isn't weakness. And fourth, Grace concluded, you need to believe you deserve to be happy. Not just when everything is perfect, but now, even with problems and flaws. Jennifer looked at them both, struck by the depth of the conversation. You two are very wise, she said, and you're right about everything. I think I kind of forgot how to live after spending so much time just focused on surviving. But now you can learn again, said Emily optimistically. We can teach you. Grace smiled. Emily loves teaching people things, she said. She's a natural-born teacher. Just like you, said Jennifer. You've both taught me more about life in 2 days than I've learned in years. That night, after Grace and Emily had left, Jennifer found herself looking at the photos they had taken. In every single one, she was truly smiling. Not the polite smile she used in business meetings, but a genuine smile of real joy. She chose the best of the 3 photos and placed it in a frame on the living room table. It was a beginning. The following days passed quickly. The partnership documents were finalized and signed, this time with complete and honest translation. Grace officially began her new role, and the transformation in her was visible. The confidence she now showed, the way she spoke about future projects, the light in her eyes when discussing strategies, all of it highlighted the difference between working just to survive and working with purpose. Emily kept dropping by the office occasionally, always full of smart questions and observations. The company employees quickly grew fond of her, and Jennifer noticed the girl's presence brought a positive energy to the whole environment. Miss Wilson, said Robert, the production supervisor, one day, I don't know what you did, but the mood here has improved a lot. The team is more excited, more hopeful. Why do you think that is, Robert? Jennifer asked. I think it's because you're different too, he said. More human. People notice when the boss is doing well, you know. Jennifer smiled. Robert was right. She felt different, more connected not just to Grace and Emily, but to everyone around her. 2 weeks after the contract signing, Jason called with news. Mom, I have a surprise for you, he said, barely containing his excitement. What surprise? I got a summer internship at a consulting firm here that works with US-China business. I'll spend 3 months learning about international trade, specific to Asia. Jennifer was impressed. Jason, that's wonderful. How did you manage that? Remember I told you I knew some Chinese students? Well, one of them introduced me to his dad, who's an executive at a consulting firm. When I told him about our partnership and showed real interest in learning, he offered me the position. I'm so proud of you, Jennifer said, moved. And there's more, Jason continued. At the end of the internship, I'll spend a week visiting Mr. Wong's company in China. He said it would be good for me to see their operations firsthand. Jason, are you sure this is what you want? Jennifer asked. I don't want you to feel obligated to get involved with the family business. Mom, I do want this, Jason said firmly. But I want to do it right, with knowledge and preparation. I don't want responsibilities just because I'm your son. I want to earn the position. Jennifer smiled, remembering herself at Jason's age. The difference was he had the chance to prepare properly, something she hadn't. When are you coming back to the US? She asked. During the December break. And, Mom, can I meet Emily and Grace in person? From what you've said, they sound amazing. Of course, Jennifer said. They're looking forward to meeting you too. After the call, Jennifer went to find Grace in her new office, a space they'd prepared specifically for her role as Director of International Relations. Grace, Jason wants to meet you both when he comes back in December, she said. Grace looked up from the document she was reviewing. We'd love to meet him too, she said. Emily's always asking about him. He got an internship at a consulting firm that works with US-China business, Jennifer shared, and he's going to visit Mr. Wong's company in China. How wonderful, Grace said. It's amazing how things connect when we're on the right path. What do you mean? Well, if Emily hadn't saved you from that fraudulent contract, you'd never have met Without Mr. Wong, I would never have had this opportunity, And Jason would never have become interested in this field, Grace explained. It's as if everything was connected, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Jennifer reflected on this observation. Grace was right. There were a series of connections and coincidences that had led to this moment, but perhaps they weren't really coincidences. Maybe they were opportunities that had always been there, waiting for them to be ready to see them. "Grace, can I tell you a secret?" Jennifer said. "Of course." "I was almost ready to give up," she admitted. "Before all this happened, I had started seriously considering selling the company or even declaring bankruptcy. I didn't think I could save everyone's jobs." Grace stopped working and looked at her. "What changed your mind?" "Emily," Jennifer said simply. "Her courage, the way she didn't hesitate to do the right thing even though she was just a child. It reminded me of who I used to be before I became so consumed by the fear of failure." "Emily has that effect on people," Grace said, smiling. "She constantly reminds me that it's worth fighting for our dreams." "And you?" Jennifer asked. "Did you ever think about giving up?" Grace sighed. "Many times," she admitted, "especially in the first few months after I was fired. There were nights I lay awake, worried about how I'd pay the rent, how I'd give Emily a good education, how I'd rebuild my life." "What stopped you from giving up?" "The same thing that stopped you," Grace said. "Emily, but also a promise I made to myself." "What promise?" "That no matter how long it took, I'd prove that having integrity was worth it, that doing the right thing even when it's hard eventually leads to something good." Jennifer felt a tightness in her chest. Grace's strength and determination were inspiring. "And it was worth it," she said. "It was," Grace agreed, "but not in the way I imagined. I thought worth it would just mean getting another good job. I never imagined it would mean finding a family." "Family?" Jennifer asked, though she knew exactly what Grace meant. "You, Jason, even Mr. Wong and his team," Grace explained. "You've all become our chosen family. Emily talks about you as if you were her real aunt, and I've never had a close friend before. I was always too focused on work and taking care of Emily." Jennifer felt her eyes well up. "I've never had a close friend either," she admitted. "I always thought I didn't have time for friendships, that they were a distraction from business. And now? Now I know I was wrong," Jennifer said. "True friendship isn't a distraction from business. It's what gives business meaning." At that moment, Emily appeared at the office door, back from school. "Hi, Aunt Jennifer. Hi, Mom," she greeted cheerfully. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course, sweetheart," Grace said. "Today at school, the teacher asked everyone to talk about their family hero," Emily said, dropping her backpack and sitting in a chair. "I talked about both of you." "Both of us?" Jennifer asked, surprised. "Yes," Emily said. "I told them how my mom never gave up even when things got hard, and how Aunt Jennifer chose to do the right thing, even when it would have been easier to do wrong." "What did the teacher say?" Grace asked. "She said I'm lucky to have two heroes in my life," Emily replied, and I agreed. "But I also told her that you're lucky to have me because I help you be even more heroic." Grace and Jennifer laughed at Emily's typical modesty. "You're right," Jennifer said. "We're very lucky to have you." "And I'm lucky to have you," Emily said. "We're the perfect team." The end of the story. And what about you, dear listener? What did you think of this tale of courage, integrity, and second chances? Do you think Jennifer made the right decision by trusting a 10-year-old child? And Grace, do you think her patience and honesty were finally rewarded? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us which part touched your heart the most. If this story brought any lessons to your life, share your heartfelt words with us. Don't forget to like this video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other moving stories like this one. Thank you so much for your company.